Welcome back to the Voices of Business, a Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce podcast. It's good to be with you. I'm your host, Joshua. My co-host, Corey Nathan, is off on another adventure, and we'll have to hear that about that one at a later date. I am so glad this week to be talking with another awesome local business owner here in the Santa Clarita. We talk about business all over Santa Clarita, really all over the nation, the world, and the country. But a lot of the business owners that we talk with are right here on our own backyard in our hometown, Santa Clarita. Sometimes we don't stick to business. We talk through leadership, management, life, and wherever the spirit and the conversation takes us. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a friend, give us a good rating, leave a review. Those all help get the word out about the show. And today I'm super excited to be having a conversation with Ryan Murphy, the CEO of Magic Maintenance. Ryan, good to have you on.
Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I know I've grown up here locally in Santa Clarita, and I know I've seen the business name around a long time. You guys have been here for just a bit.
Forever. Yeah. Since 1964, Magic Maintenance has been a Santa Clarita staple. Yeah.
1964. So we're on 60 years, if my math is right.
60 years.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, my family's owned it for since 1985. So
okay,
long time.
Now you obviously didn't start that. You said your family has owned it since then. So what was your career path before that? Did you say construction and that direction is something you wanted to do?
No. No. I wanted to be a sports agent. That was my game. I was a big sports fan growing up. And the business back in the 80s and 90s was predominantly janitorial. So in carpet and upholstery cleaning. That's what my parents did. Cleaned all the model homes back when Valencia Company was building out, New Holland and Farm. So we were doing all the model homes and all the final cleans. And that was their game. And I just wanted no part of it. As a kid, we were in the back, my brother and I, filling spotter bottles for chemical spot cleaning on carpet. You'd go to school and your hands had blisters on them, and the teachers were like, "What are you doing? Slave labor on the weekends?" And my brother and I were just sitting here going, "Yeah, we were filling hot spotter bottle, spotter chemical." And, so that was how it was. So I wanted no part of it and decided, wanted to be a sports agent. My dad and I were big sports fans, and started going to college, and my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, whoa. At that point, we started doing painting and drywall as well. Back in the late 90s, 99, we bought out a painting and drywall company. And we did all work for builders. So builders were like, "Hey, you want to do our customer service work? And you guys are super clean already. What can you do to be special?" And that was when I first got an interest in the business. So I started working in the company, and one thing led to another, and Dad got real sick, and I said, "You're not selling this business." So I decided to go all in on it, and he put some hard training in. And for the next 6 years, I learned right under his tutelage, and then ended up passing away in 2009. So, but at that point, we started changing the game, and we became a whole different company.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. A lot to unpack there. Taking a little bit of a step back.
Yeah.
You mentioned, from an education perspective. So, the business has been in Santa Clarita for 60 years. So did you grew up in Santa Clarita, high school here?
Canyon High School, went to Canyon, I was the first, full graduating class at La Mesa when La Mesa opened. So Valencia High School had opened. So some of the kids went to Valencia, and, it was at the same time La Mesa came about. Went to Canyon and COC for 2 years, and was getting ready to go to SC when this whole thing took a left turn.
Got it. Yeah. And that seems to be, it's crazy. Like, we've had over a dozen different conversations now with business owners in Santa Clarita, and that's the common theme. Like, I made a plan. This is where my education was going. This was my career trajectory, and life made a left turn. And whether it was, someone dropped out of college or didn't complete or did finish, but, has a degree in one field but has a job in another, And that seems to be more common than not, that you aren't necessarily today where you think you were going to be.
No, it's, I'm the, for a while I was like, you know what? I want to go all in this sports thing. I wanted to get my law degree, wanted to be a lawyer, wanted to go that whole route. And then what I realized when I started working in the business pretty heavily was the construction industry is a brotherhood, and it's all about your word. And it's all about when you tell somebody you're going to do it, you do it. And if you don't see somebody for 3 years, but you always took care of them, and then they see you, it's like you never missed a beat and you're back right in good graces and you're doing all their work again. And I really fell in love with that whole, it reminded me of team sports in a sense. You rely on your brothers, you take care of each other. I grew up playing soccer. And that was one of those things for me that I was just like, dude, I love this. And ultimately that's why when he was still contemplating, even though I was like, don't sell it, he saw my passion for it. And I wanted to change the business. I didn't want to stick with what we were doing before. And he's like, when I'm dead, you do whatever you want. Right now, you're going to do what I say. So I'm like, all right. So, I fell in love with it, and here I am, 25 years later.
Well, that's one of those things, I think, where the business was working, you know, hey, don't let get your feet wet, get in there, understand how the system works. You could sort of, for lack of a better term, like coast a little, rather than like, I'm going to overhaul everything and change everything.
And not with my dad. There was no coasting. It was like, it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm in the office. Where are you?
Yeah. And not just like coasting, but more in the aspect of like, not changing everything and adding 14
Right.
service, like, that
Right.
type of an element. You're still not coasting. Sure.
Yeah. Don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Owning a small business is not coasting.
No. Sometimes I wish I went the other route. Maybe I should have been a sports agent. No, I love it.
I don't know.
No, I love it.
So been a family business, you sort of, your dad passed away, you transitioned in, bought that from some of the rest of the family, sort of carrying on that torch, leading on that legacy. What is sort of that next generation look like for you? Obviously, you've sort of alluded to that a little bit with like, adding additional services, expanding the company, growing that. But what does that look like?
Yeah. So, well, my mom and dad were partners in the business. My dad was operations. My mother was back end. So she was brilliant with the money. She handled all that, handled the investment kind of side of it. And my dad was a grinder, and very smart man, but he was a grinder. And growing up in that, I said, there are certain things about the business that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be out there in the middle of the night cleaning model homes. I didn't want to be out there. I wanted to have a family. So, and my dad made a point every night they were going to be home by 6:00 for dinner. That was our thing, right? So, but I wanted to go into something that tailored to my creativity. And I love design. I love the construction side. I love the remodel side. So we got out of doing commercial janitorial final cleans. And then it really made my staff really nervous. Like, you're getting out of this? And then I got rid of my carpet and upholstery cleaning business side of it. And they're like, whoa, what are we doing? I'm like, we're going to follow our passion. And we really love construction. I want to get into doing high-end remodels, and I want to get into doing things with particular eye. And you can go into a project, and homeowner is giving you a little bit of autonomy to do what you see in their home and let your vision run wild. Got into doing mold remediation, and the mold remediation side of it was interesting because we did it all down south. It's all basically Beverly Hills, Brentwood, Palisades, Santa Monica. And we do a little bit of HOA stuff up here, but our pricing tends to put us down in the market down there. We don't do as hot here. We don't do insurance work. So when you don't do insurance work, people tend to want to rely on that. And I tend to work a little bit more for business managers, and that became our niche. So we got into the remediation, the general construction and remodel side, and the painting and drywall. And we've made a name for ourselves in those three lines of work. We have the HOA division. So locally out here in Santa Clarita, I was like, you know what? We're going to have this HOA division to still have some janitorial, right? We're going to maintain rec centers and communities. And then that's going to be kind of our loss leader to get in the door and show them that we could do other services to help them, whether it's their concrete, their block walls, painting their clubhouses or doing the remodels on their bathrooms. It allowed us to have different sectors of business. So when the economy does shift, we could be working in real estate. We could be in the industrial side. We could be on the commercial side, the residential side. So it's given us a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
And it's worked out. And now moving forward, it's a lot of focus on the construction remodel side, the remediation, the painting and drywall. Those have been really trying to grow those, but I'm not the big painter out here, not trying to go out there and, paint the Taj Mahal or, whatever it is. We like to stay in our niche. And I believe we have a good niche.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few elements there to unpack. One is, you're talking about diversity a little bit in what you guys, the offering was.
Right.
And looking at where we are today and the housing market over the past few years, like they've obviously not been building as fast as they have historically in Santa Clarita. Now they're talking about a handful of different expansions and other, places that they're looking at building. Like I'm on the far end of Canyon Country, and there was a project that they were supposed to put in 500 homes and then another 500 and another five. It was like 1,500 homes connecting Soledad and Shadow Pines up over to Sierra Highway. So you can actually go up Soledad, take a left onto Shadow Pines, and then take that all the way out to Sierra Highway. And that whole 1,500 homes, like they had some tractors back there moving dirt, and then interest rates shifted and they were like, nope. And they hit a pause on that. And so with that not coming into the market, like there's not as many model homes to clean. And so, it's that element of like hindsight's 2020. It's like, okay, what would we as a business have done during this stage of the economy if we wouldn't have shifted? And who knows? There could have been other things you guys found, but obviously expanding into stuff like, I know a few other businesses out here that do locally mold remediation and some of that type of stuff. And, there's always going to be that as a problem because water damage just happens. Like we can prepare as much as we can for it, but inevitably, like
the night before you go on vacation, your pipe breaks. Yes.
Yeah. My neighbor next door literally was on vacation for a few days. He got home and he was like, oh, it's weird. I got some water on my front porch. Oh, gardener must have watered the plant that's there. Went inside. Like a day or two later, he opens the door in the front bedroom and the pipe that was in the slab had been leaking and bubbling up through that room. And the whole room, all the carpet was just totally drenched. Without the drywall or carpet, like all of that, and then repipe everything. And yeah, you don't plan for that. And a remodel you can plan for a little bit more. But yeah.
Well, a lot of water damage in the markets that we tend to service more, they end up shifting a little bit more into the remodel side. They're like, well, we're already tearing things apart. We have a homeowner right here in Valencia, actually, that's right over here by Bridgeport. And it was the same thing. They had a big water damage, whole downstairs flooded. They hired a contractor. They weren't super thrilled with the work. And then they brought us into the fold, referred through our electrician. And we walk in, next thing you know, it's this massive remodel. Kitchen, floors, smooth walls, European style doors. And the home is absolutely,
oh, wow.
Yeah. It's, they went all out because they saw the opportunity. They're like, well, we're already displaced and we weren't planning on this, but this is no better time than now. So a lot of times we end up walking into those situations.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents' house, they had a water line rupture in the kitchen, took out half the kitchen. And so they gutted it. This is 10 10, 15 years ago, I think.
Got it.
They gutted the whole kitchen. And then it was like, well, the kitchen's gutted. The den right next to it is already partly damaged. Like there's a wall there. Might want to take it out. Well, when we went to take the wall out, it was, my dad and I were doing some of the demo work and we went to take the wall out. We realized it was a tilt up that they already had a header beam. They just tilted a wall in its place. And then, so it was an optional wall. And we're like, oh, well, that's easy to knock down. Like no engineering, done. Did that on one side of the kitchen. Then we look at the other side of the kitchen. We're like, there's also a wall there. Like we might want to take that out. So we start to rip the drywall back and there's the sewer line for everything on the second floor.
Oh, just kidding.
And so the plumber's like, you can move any pipe, like you can move any wall. It's a matter of like, you don't need that load bearing wall there, but you need to put the load somewhere. So there's some engineering cost. There's like, removing that wall may cost you $100,000, but you can remove it. Like, right. And so they're like,
well, you can do anything when there's money out there.
Yeah. Everything was already opened up. They already had a jackhammer out half the concrete in the kitchen, like to get to the pipe anyway, to fix stuff. And so they're like, we're already this far. They're like, okay, what are we looking at to move that thing to just open up both sides? And they're like, okay, forget
it all.
Like,
you went
let's
that
do
route.
it, because it was one of those things where it's like, it's already a mess. Like you might as well just do it now rather than a few years later be like, oh man, it would have been like $3 more grand to get rid of that. So
very clever.
Yeah. So you guys are a family, family business. Do you guys have immediate family still working in the company, or is it now it's, what does that dynamic look like?
Yeah. So when I took over in 08, my brother was a police officer. He was down at Ventura PD. He's a motor cop. And my mother was not wanting any part of it. I mean, she was still in it. That was her way of coping, just doing the back end. And I was a sales guy. So I would be out there selling and running the operations, basically took my dad's position. And then what ended up happening is mom kind of started stepping away. And she was, out of it. My brother decided he didn't decide, towards ACL, MCL, and LCL.
Oh,
yeah. Straight out of the movie Point Break, jump the wash, comes down, lands, there goes his knee, bad guy gets away. So that was that whole thing. He comes back, and I think it was like literally the first day or first week he was back on tour again. And they medically retired him from the police force. And I was like, well, dude, mom's retired. Why don't you come on and do HR? And
I got bottles for you to fill in the back.
I got bottles in the back, dude. You missed the blisters. So he's like, mom was trying to, work this deal. Cause frankly, I really didn't want him working with me. We were oil and water as far as personality wise. I was always like, hey, let's do it. We could do anything. And he's like, whoa, we can't do that. And, we were optimist, pessimist a little bit. He came from, seeing a lot of violent crime. So it's a little different when you get into a family service business where everybody's like, rah, rah, rah. But it was probably the best move my mother ever made, was engineering that. So yeah, she got us together. It was tough sledding for the first 4 years, really, if he and I together. He lived here. He ended up buying a house 7 doors down from me. We never saw each other, even though we lived on the same street, except when we did our Sunday walks. But it's been great. He ended up moving to Colorado, so he works remotely for me now. So he does HR and kind of back end and deals with all of the nightmare stuff that not only do I not have the patience for, or the, know-how. He's brilliant. So he handles the back end of the business now for me, and I get to do what I love. And it works great. Now we have a better relationship than ever, and it's he and I. So I own the business, and he's my right-hand man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of like hands-on experience, hands-on leadership, just figuring it out, getting in the nitty-gritty of it, just figuring out what needs to be done there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I may not be family, but I've got a lot of managers who've been here for like 25 years. So, I mean,
That's
Lourdes,
family.
yeah, I mean, my brother might be my right hand. Lourdes is my left hand, or the other one, Invictor. They've been here 25 years themselves. And, when you have managers that have been with you that long through your whole maturation of the business, we all came in at the same time. Um, you become family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, heck, we have a gentleman who works for us. He's been here since I was 5 years old. I'm going to be 42 here, and he's still Juan. I mean, he's still working away, and he's family.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, yeah, those are all family.
Yeah.
So looking at just, industry conditions and changes in both your guys' industry, sort of the economic shift and some of that, how has the business changed or adapted, over the years? And some of those could be like, you know, obviously the chemicals that you guys used 30 years ago and use today are probably different because California laws have changed. Also,
Mhm.
if you know where to get like actual paint, not the water-based stuff they have. Anyway.
Well, yeah, the paints obviously have changed. They got some new good products, these alkyd emulsion kind of deals, but the chemicals, yeah, we've gone to a little bit more of the green side. We use a product called BioEsk for our, it's a thyme-based chemical, but it's super clean, used in the food industry, and it came about because of COVID. So
Oh, wow.
COVID was a big change for us. I started doing a little janitorial cleaning, movie sets, or providing people out there disinfecting so they can continue to shoot. And there's a great studio out here, LA North, that started really using our team a lot. And the owners over there, John and Anthony, were fantastic, big supporters. And we actually got into doing some air scrubber rental together, but they really started introducing me to other chemicals that I needed to, bring into the film industry to make it work. So we brought this product BioEsk in, and it's worked great. We use it in homeowner associations. We disinfect. It's like basically you can clean anything with it. Then we have, obviously our other cleaners now that are mostly green cleaning chemicals. But outside of that, as far as how we have shifted and how we've changed, I'm pretty old school. I feel like, I was raised, my dad always had a pad of paper here with a pen in his pocket. And I did too for the first 10, 15 years, because obviously dad did, right? And the toothpick in the mouth. But I ended up realizing that a lot of the old school methods work best. And there's a reason they were done for so many years that way. And it's really been difficult for me to adapt and change with some of the newer age kind of ways of doing things. But we're working on it. We're getting there. I'm always trying to be at the forefront of construction side of things. The way homes are built, the way we can soundproof projects, products that we use that are going to last much longer. Because a lot of the products today, because they have changed, they don't maybe have the longevity. Also, it's become a production-based business, right? So how fast can you do it? And as you see with all the homes they throw up out here, the reason I'm in that industry is because when you build them so fast, there's bound to be an issue here and there, which means job
Well,
security.
they're so cookie cutter. I know we moved and bought a home in Canyon Country in 2020, and man, touring homes in 2020 was weird. But I can't tell you how many, like, we walked through some tract homes and some new stuff, and I was like, these are, yeah, you just flipped the living room and the kitchen. Like, that's all you did. It's the same layout as the last two we looked at. You just flipped the rooms. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a lot of that. Production's a different, it's a different game, but
yeah.
in that sense, for the guys like myself, the faster they build them, the more business I get. Not only on a production standpoint, but on when you're trying to have, they used to have back in the 2004 boom, you'd have like a superintendent one or two assistant superintendents. Then you'd have customer service reps on each project. Well, then that kind of went away. And it was like, well, you got one superintendent and one guy that kind of assists a couple projects. Or so there's only so much that these guys can do. And the build schedules got tighter and tighter and tighter. And the cities became overwhelmed with trying to do inspections. And the plumbing companies and the framers and everybody else got spread thin because who wants to run away from a dollar? It was, let's just get it done. And that led to really giving us more business. Unfortunately for the builders, I mean, they've taken some hits, but I'm pretty sure that, with the way over the years, the inflation's taken place and how the economy's rising out here, our home values have gone up. They're making a pretty penny. So, we're coming in there still trying to give our best dollar or our best price to them to be locked in. But it's a different game, man.
Yeah. Have you guys seen, I'm interested in sort of your insights on this. Have you guys seen a higher rate in the industry of people retiring and leaving the industry than new people coming in?
There's nobody that wants to work in construction. So even the people that were coming over, coming up here from Mexico, that were a lot of our labor force or South American countries, that's even more difficult to get them now because they have computers also, right? So if they can learn a computer science program or they can get into other industries and have more opportunities, why go get your hands dirty? So you've seen, we used to have literally, I'd walk in the office every week and I'd have at least 10 people a week sitting in our lobby wanting a job, even when unemployment was down, because they were coming over, whatever the case was, they wanted jobs. They just, got their work visa, whatever that case was. Now we're like, we have to pay employees, basically finder's fees for bringing people that'll stay with us. And you get a certain amount of money when they stay at 3 months or, 6 months. You get money based on the amount of time that person stays as employed. And then we give that employee sometimes, okay, if they're going to come over and leave a job, to come over here, it's like you have to almost give them like a signing bonus in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different industry. It's tough because a lot of the guys that I have in our painting and drywall division, for example, I've got 10 guys in that division that have been with us more than 18 years. And they're getting older. And they're the ones that built our reputation. We were known in the industry as the guys that can match texture. So you can go in a house and people have these flood cuts or ceiling burst and they bring a production company in there and there'd be dust everywhere. The texture didn't match. Homeowner wasn't happy. Our true skill set was making it look like it truly was the way it was the day you bought it. And that's what we specialize in. And to this day, that's why the builders use us. We're clean and we can make it look like it never happened. So when that occurs, it's great. But now I'm seeing these guys start to retire and I'm begging them, hey, please train the new guys, train the guys that are coming in. And we've had some great stewardships, some great guys. We have a guy here, Gerardo, he's trained, I couldn't even tell you, 10, 15 drywall guys with us. I have, 2 wands that work for us. It's the same thing. They've been fantastic, great painters. We have a guy, Alex, who leads our construction division, who's passing his knowledge on to the other guys in our construction division. And Alex is a younger guy, but he came with the skill set. So it is much different. We do see a higher rate of people wanting to, but it's harder to retire now. So they stay working a lot later into life. But we have a lot less young people coming in to want to work.
Yeah, which is crazy. And the one thing I will say, like, as a business owner, it's really good that you guys are acknowledging, like, employee A has all this knowledge that they have, that you guys are setting stuff up so they can pass that on. So you guys are encouraging that, because if you don't, then that old workforce retires, you guys bring in a new one. And now, other than the processes, procedures, and customer service, the front line is an entirely different company, more or less, like an entirely different crew. And now customer service changes, quality of work changes. Like, And
Bingo. Quality of
yeah,
work. And that's everything to me. I mean, you can have a hole in your ceiling and we patch it. And the homeowner's like, oh my gosh, you guys are fantastic. And I walk in and I can see that patch. I literally freaked one of my managers out. I was like, sorry, man, I'm so happy you love it, but we're going to have to redo that patch. And my manager looks at me and I go, I'm not going to let a patch they can see like this stay in their ceiling when somebody else is going to walk in that house and go, oh, you had a leak. I don't want anybody to know that. This is our reputation. And our guys in the field have that pride of ownership. And that's why our reputations lasted.
yeah, good, good. That's, I mean, it's sustaining quality, longevity, and that also ensures like longevity of just where you guys are at the company as a whole, which is really good.
Thank you.
So awesome. What would you say is sort of like your most important habit or sort of mindset that contributes to either personal success and or company success?
Two things I always tell my team: we don't run away from problems, we run towards them. So that's always been kind of the thing. I was raised with that. If there's a problem, why are you going to defer taking that phone call? Like that homeowner's maybe had an issue. Just
Yeah.
face it head on, be upfront, be honest, tell them what it is. And a lot of times, 99% of people are going to be understanding and let you work through the situation because we're not perfect. So that is a big mindset I have. I've also always been, this sounds really bad, but I've always been driven by the dollar. So, as a kid, I had the dream that by the age of 30, I wanted to have a Ferrari, right? So I had a Ferrari Testarossa poster on my wall. And my parents, I used to always try to design little things, thinking I was going to make it rich as a kid by having something get, patented, and I'm going to go on to be this guy that can sit at home and drive a Ferrari and not work. And what I realized is when everybody else is at home and hanging out and sleeping, you have to work because you have to find the advantage. So I'm not the smartest guy in my company, in the room, not. I'm a college dropout. But my whole goal is if I can work harder than you, I'm going to gain respect, number one. And number two, I'm going to have an advantage because the guy that's putting in, 8 hours a day isn't going to be able to hold a candle to me working till 2 a.m. Now, I don't do that every night like I used to, but I'm a big thing is I want to get home, be there for my children's sports or activities, have dinner with the family. And then when I put them to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock, I love my wife, but I got things to do. I'm going to go back to work. And so the one things I always tell my team is be honest to a fault. I'm sorry. You got to tell them what it is. Run towards the problem and you got to outwork everybody. And if you can just do that, kind of feel the old golden rules, right? It's so easy. Business is so simple. If you literally just follow the golden rules. And
it's so true. And I think it's interesting as you're talking through those different elements, I'm definitely seeing similarities. Like those were definitely instilled in you from your parents, like, because there's a lot of those similarities that are roles of an officer. Like an officer runs through a problem. So like, as you were saying, your brother was an officer, I was like, okay, that makes sense of why he went that path because those are the same qualities. Like,
yeah,
like you guys are running to a problem, someone's house is flooded. Like he's running to a problem, someone's in trouble. Like, well, now he's not. But anyway, it's like, those are both issues you're running to help fix. Like
my parents were Midwest folks, right? So my mom was from Chicago. My dad was from Minneapolis. And they were just raised with those Midwest roots. And it was like, it was family, it was honesty, it was, do what you say you're going to do and when you say you're going to do it. So that's what my mother and father built this business on. And like you said, they raised us that way. We had there wasn't a second guess in your mind. It was, you wanted to do that. Now, as a kid, you tend to embellish things here and there, right? You tend to make them a little bigger than they are, a little smaller than they are. But as you get older and you settle into your career, your roots really become everything in your career and in your trajectory. And that's why there's so much, I feel, in our society that's gotten off base in lack of, I grew up, even though my mom ran the back end of the business, our whole childhood until I was like 12 or 13, she was home with us. And having that stability, seeing your father work hard, your mother work hard at home, it sets an example, and you're raised with different values where you have so hard to live in California. You have two parents working. Nobody's home. These kids are going home, and it's here's some money. I mean, that's why we have, I believe part of the reason is we have a big drug issue. We have a big drug issue in this valley. I have been employed, and we have people that we know that have had people they love and that are close to them pass away from fentanyl. And you hear it all the time. And friends I grew up with couldn't stay away from drugs. And my parents were always like, look, just be honest with us. I remember the first day, anytime I had a momentous occasion occur in my life, I couldn't wait to get home and sit at the dinner table and tell my parents. Hell, the day I lost my virginity, I went home and told my mom and dad at the dinner table. And my mom's like, I don't want to hear this. And my dad's like, high five, that a boy. Now this is what you're going to do. And this is how you're going to be responsible. And that was really the same thing that my wife and I really try to instill in our 4 children.
Yeah. Well, I think that is one of the things that I see that just, it's hard for me because I grew up with the same type of element. We as a family sat around the table and we had dinner, not every single night, but 90% of the time.
Right.
There was always something that came up once a week, or someone had extracurricular, whatever it was, going on. And so, that's what my family does now. Like, we've got 2 little ones and do the same thing. And, our 3.5-year-old is like, hey, what'd you do at preschool today? And, you're learning this, or you made a new friend, or whatever it is. But it's having those exact conversations and having your kids being comfortable with having that conversation, because you made a new friend, great. Oh, you made that drawing, cool. Those conversations now turn into the bigger, deeper conversations years down the road. And that's exactly like what you're saying is then the conversation of I'm having anxiety issues, or I'm really struggling in school and I'm, struggling with depression, or whatever those elements aren't about, because that conversation of look what I did in the school today never happened. And that open line of communication is not there. And so I think you're 100% right. We've seen so much of a shift of that, of those conversations not happening. And so many people, little kids that the family's like, okay, dinner's served. Everybody grab your plate and go to your rooms.
It's crazy.
Why? Sit around a table and have a meal.
They've had kids and they didn't want to have it. Is honestly what ended up happening. And it's like, my wife started this thing years ago. When we all sit down at dinner. Now, I have 2 kids in club soccer. I have one daughter who's a gymnast and a dancer, and another one who just does competitive dance. And then they've all done karate. My son's a 2nd degree black belt. My older daughter's a black belt. The other one's a black belt. And the other one's trying to become a black belt. And that sets also kind of goes in line with building character, strong mind, doing these things. But my wife said, what we're going to do when we sit down is we're all going to say our favorite thing of the day and our least favorite thing of the day. But now it turns into, right. So everybody gets favorites and 3 least. And usually it's 3 favorites and 1 or 2 least. And what you start to learn is you start to see that some kids do have anxiety, some of your kids, and some kids, they have bad dreams at night, and other kids don't feel good about themselves at school. So what that's led to is, I never thought this would be the case, but we have 2 children that have gone through therapy and one that actively does it. And it's made a huge difference, because my one who's gone through it, I have a son who's, in junior high school now, and he's had his first girlfriend. And what does he do? He sits with me and goes, Dad, what do I do? And he's showing me a text message with her. I'm like, oh my God, I get to be a kid again and like help you text her back. Like, let me tell you the lesson, son. Always be respectful. You may not, don't be that jerk over there. Who cares if she likes that boy? You stay true to your roots because ultimately you're going to end up with the one. Your mom and I were high school sweethearts. And that happened because I didn't care about it. I was the short kid and she was the hottest girl in the school. And I landed her because she had good values. Your nana and abuelo raised her the way that she valued a person versus he's the bad boy or he's the, the football quarterback or whatever it was. And it all started back with this, so
Cool.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I said wherever the conversation takes us.
I know. Sorry about that, Josh. I can go off on a tangent.
No, you're good. And these are the types of conversations that we love to have because people may know the business name. And in reality, it's like, okay, it's just another construction maintenance company, like whatever. But it's like, cool. What makes you guys you? Like, and that's what does. Like, you're a family. You guys have been in business for 60 years. Like, you have guys on the staff who have 15, 20, 25 years of experience, both in the company and or industry. Like, those are the things that makes the business different than someone else down the road. And so those are the types of stuff we love having those conversations. Well, we're going to wrap it up here in a second. I have two last questions. The first one is, what is one of the biggest losses or mistakes in business that you've done, and maybe it didn't turn out the right way or it led to something else?
Oh. Biggest loss or biggest mistake? I've been pretty fortunate. There hasn't been a lot of big losses. The one thing I've learned is documentation. Photograph. And when you think you have enough photographs, more photographs. And when you think you have enough plastic, add more, right? That's another one.
Especially in your industry where you guys are coming in like, oh, the damage is here. And then you come back and they're like, there's this wall, on the other side of the house that also has, and you're like, how is that related?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm probably going to hang up with you and say, oh gosh, that was my biggest mistake. I would say my biggest issue is sometimes I tend to, I don't want to say spend too much, but I get invested and sold too quickly in ideas for the business. And sometimes I'll make a big purchase on equipment, or I'll think we're going to go a different direction. I hired a consultant at one point and I paid this guy like, $25,000, $30,000 for absolutely nothing. I've had those things and I keep coming back to it. Now we just invested more money than I'd ever like to admit into Salesforce. So we have a CRM platform, and it has been the biggest struggle I've ever faced in my business career getting it launched, because we have
that exact description, I think, should be their marketing headline. I own a marketing agency, and I can't tell you how many companies. We had a client who literally signed up for Salesforce. The salesperson was like, oh, this will do this, like gave them all the things it can do. They're like, this is amazing. They got set up and they're like, it can't do any of that. They're like, oh yeah, you have to hire a company to customize it for you.
Which is what I'm doing. So I am heavy six figures into customizing and into my contract with Salesforce. But I will say this. Shane in my office, he and his sister work for me, and they're fantastic. And they're both kind of the ones pushing me out of my shell of, hey, you got to be a little bit more new school. And Lourdes, who's my right hand, she's kind of right there with them. And Lourdes, myself, and Shane made a decision to do Salesforce. And I was literally on the golf course for my birthday 3 years ago down in Palm Desert. And I'm walking to my car and I see a card on the floor in the parking lot. It was a Salesforce card. And I picked up the card, and that was the beginning of the end. And I literally went back and said, hey guys, I've heard about this. What are we going to do about this? Next thing you know, we're into Salesforce. So what I would say to expedite this, because I know we're under a time crunch, is we still haven't fully launched. We are 2 years into this, and now we have, our painting division is starting to use it. Our HOA division uses it. Our molding construction divisions, we're kind of getting there. But it is a big change when you come from a paper schedule book. I mean, hell, Josh, don't laugh, but I mean, I still schedule my appointments on a binder, and people laugh at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, when I'm driving in the car, I got to write fast, right? And
Yep.
I still haven't fully come to technology, and neither has 90% of my staff. So these are guys in the field that, they work with their hands for a living. Now you're telling them to grab their phones and type in what they did for the day and click a button to send it to their time cards in. And it's not been my biggest mistake because I ultimately think it's going to be what saves us as a business. But it has been my biggest investment in the biggest hardship I've faced in my career.
Biggest hardship you faced, Salesforce. I will say we've done some Salesforce integration. So like we built a website for a client that actually integrates fully with their Salesforce, pulls Salesforce objects publicly onto their website. They have like an event management thing. And there are instances of Salesforce that I've seen that are set up beautifully and make businesses run amazing. And the problem is, like you said, it's 6 figures to get there. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They're like, oh, it's just a Salesforce subscription. It's like, no, it's not. Like, that's the cheap part.
Well, it was the cheap part. I have a lot of employees and you have to have a lot of users, and those users equals dollars. And I feel guilty because every year we do a big Christmas party. We're at the Odyssey. We have everybody out there. It's a time for us to dance and have fun and kind of let your hair down and just enjoy each other. And we do bonuses usually the week before that. And I'm going, oh my gosh, we've been very successful as a company, but I've put so much into Salesforce. I don't think their bonuses can be what we're used to. And now I've been in this struggle over literally every night this week already, working at night, trying to figure out the numbers because I want them to get those bonuses that they're used to, that they deserve, because they're leaving their families to be here with me, and they're working when we're on call because every week 4 different people have to rotate on call. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Owning a business.
It's a blessing and it's a lot.
Yeah.
They go first. The team goes first.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, do you have any questions for me before we wrap up? We flip the tables on it.
Oh man, I wasn't expecting this. So, the only thing, I don't know much about you. You said you live in Canyon Country. Did you go to Canyon High School as well?
No, I was actually homeschooled. So I did homeschool, and then I had, my science teacher was a NASA engineer. Like,
oh, wow.
So yeah, had some fun experiences there. And so I did a ton of different co-op type stuff. And then I actually went through the ROP program, which is now the Pathways program, through Art District. And so, as a outside Art District student, you were allowed to do that. And so I was on campus at Canyon, at Arts, and one other one I can't remember, like 1 day a week. And so I was at different schools. And so the funny part is, growing up, for one whole semester or one whole year, I'd be on campus at one high school and then on campus at a different one. So I have different friends who are like, oh no, you went to Canyon during high school. Oh no, you went to Hartford. Technically I went to both.
I was there.
Same year.
Okay.
So,
and then when did this business when? How long have you been into the
so been doing marketing websites, all of that we're 17 years. So started back in 2007-ish, a little bit before that. But yeah, right at the crash of the market. So great time to start a business.
And how's your business doing in this economy?
Man, it we're all over the place. It's weird. The business has shifted and the industry as a whole has shifted so much in the past 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And we historically have done like larger software systems. We built a system years ago that manages like vehicle repossessions. It's sort of like a system. Yeah. Yeah. So like the guy who's in the field, this company. So there's businesses that are like, oh yeah, we're a little old school. And I'm like, oh, you don't even know. These guys had a single office and they'd have field techs that would drive sometimes 3 hours one way to go pick up a file folder of their job work orders for the day, then turn around and drive 3 hours back to their service area, do 2 hours of work, and wake up and do the same thing the next day. I was like, have you
And they
heard of
lost
a
how much
fax?
money?
Yeah, the crazy part is they were profitable, but that's just how they set their business model up. And I was like, have you heard of a fax machine?
Well,
Like,
what you've
a
done now,
fax.
it's probably made them millionaires.
So we digitized like the form entry and a lot of that type of stuff. And so as you were talking about like the guys in the field, one of the things that I would say in regards to like Salesforce stuff is if you guys are on iPhones, iPads, however they're doing that, make sure that keyboard has the voice to text function in the bottom corner, because that guy can hit that. And instead of sitting there typing all the notes out, they can hit that voice to text button and be like, okay, there's damage on the living room ceiling, blah, blah, blah. And they can just talk through it. And then it puts it in there. They may have to correct 2 or 3 words, but like it gets them 80% of the way there. Just like they would stand there and describe it to you on the phone, like exactly the same way. They just describe it to an iPad instead. Yeah. So there's some of that type of stuff, or like, common problem, put some checkboxes in, but, yeah, there's friction points in any new system. So yeah, so we did a lot of that type of stuff. And then when COVID hit, a lot of businesses really shifted what they were spending marketing on, and just where dollars are. And we're seeing a lot less now of like large website projects. And it's a lot more like, do we need a giant website with, 85 pages and all this content? Like, what do we need? And especially over the past year or so with the shift of Google, companies that had all this content, like really solid custom content that's unique, that's keyword rich, that should help them rank, all of a sudden overnight, like they're not ranking well at all anymore. So it's like, okay, well, then why are we creating tons of content if it's just not going to rank? Like these are established websites that have been in business, been around. Your guys' website, like you guys have been around for years. You've had a website, like you have content there, like, and then all of a sudden the ranking just dropped. And it's like, okay, unless we're going to spend 30, 40, $50,000 on content development over the next few months, like doesn't make sense to do that. So it's like, okay, well, where are jobs coming in, and really taking a step back and looking at that. So we have some CRM stuff that we've implemented for a lot of companies, a lot of our clients, and like, okay, let's track where are those jobs coming in. Okay, 90% of your jobs are coming from these 2 different referral sources. Great. Let's spend more money there. Let's, maybe it's a HOA association or something, like for you guys, like maybe there's an association that we can join that we already are in the LA County one, and we could join the Ventura County one. Like,
Right.
And so looking at some of that type of stuff, we had a client like 2 years ago. They're a sewer contractor and they do a lot of like new construction for like apartment complexes. And they're like, yeah, we're thinking about doing like Facebook ads. Like, great. For why? They're like, oh, to get new leads. I was like, for your industry, like there's no general contractor who's building an apartment complex of 150 units who's going to click on a Facebook ad and hire a plumber. Like the chance of that happening is like pretty much 0%. And so they're like, we just don't know, like, what should we do? I was like, honestly, you have to eat lunch. Here's what you're going to do. Your office manager every week is going to go down a list of general contractors who would do that type of a project. And she's going to call a handful of them and schedule one of them to have lunch with on Friday. You're going to pay for it. you're going to take a general contractor to lunch every Friday. You got to eat lunch. Take them to lunch, hang out for an hour, hour and a half, and just have a good lunch. And that's your networking. And he's been doing it for 2 years.
And you never know what it's going to lead to.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't do a lot of marketing. I have an ad in inside SB magazine, and I have it inside there because Gina Crawford's a great friend of mine. It's a really pretty magazine, and it gives us brand recognition in the community. But my business mostly is derived from word of mouth, and frankly, not a lot up here, and it's new home construction. So what do? And it's HOAs. We have to go out there and form relationships. And it's all this things. That's where I have a hard time adjusting to the clickbait and all these other things that you need to do. And there's great companies out here. I mean, there's other contractors that have just amazing social media content, and they do all these fun gags and spoofs and do this stuff. And my team's like, you got to do this, and you got to, jump through paint cans. And I'm like, it's not who I am. That's who they are. And that's great. And that works for them. And they've been very successful doing it. But I'm the guy that wants to build a relationship and work with people I like and work with the friends I like. And if I don't really have a relationship and you don't like me and I don't care for you as much because there's not a lot of commonality, bygones be bygones. Good to see you. Have a great day. Yeah. But you don't need to work. I like to build the relationship the old school way. And it means a lot to me to do that. And I tend to do that with our clients as well, because I get lucky. I click with clients. And when I click with those clients, we have longstanding relationships. It turns into, or they knew my father, who was a really big member in this community. And it's great to work that way. And I think what you did there for them probably made them feel good again. It actually brings some warmth in you when you get to have those relationships and not everything is cold anymore. No, everybody sends an email, nobody picks up the phone and calls. And that's huge on, hey, I know we're texting, can I call you? Because there's nothing better than human interaction.
Yep. Awesome. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. We've covered a ton of stuff. And how can people learn more about you? I mean, before we hit record, I was joking that I couldn't even find you on LinkedIn. So obviously your guys' website, Magic Maintenance.
Magic
We'll
Maintenance.
have that link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have that link in the show notes. But you guys are a chamber member. And so obviously, you guys are around. If someone wants to connect with you.
Yeah. 1-800-MAGIC-11. That's our, easy number to remember. 1-800-MAGIC-11. You've got our website. I'm Ryan Murphy. I give my cell phone out. They can call me on my cell phone, 661-810-1638. I answer it all the time. Call me. If you want to crank call me, that's fine. I'll have my kids call you back and crank call you. That's how we roll, man. I don't have any social media. So personally, none. I'm not on LinkedIn. But you can walk in the front door and hopefully find me, or you can call my cell phone. You have it now.
There you go. Awesome. Well, as always, please follow, rate, and review wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us at The Voices of Business on social media. I am Joshua Maddux on LinkedIn. Corey, my co-host, you can find Corey S. Nathan. We love to have conversations like this and others. If you're a local business leader and part of the chamber, reach out. We'd love to have you on. We'll see you next time on The Voices of Business.